All right, I think it's time for us to start with this wonderful event. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Miami-Dade College 6th Annual Tutor Symposium. It's a great pleasure to have you all come for a few hours of professional development, learning, sharing, networking, and celebrating the valuable support that tutors provide to student success in college. My name is Eric Dominguez, and I serve as the college-wide director of learning resources. Today, we'll have a fantastic day prepared for all of us. I am sure you will enjoy the many workshops that the tutoring group have put together this year, and to them, many thanks. More information about the logistics will be shared later by Caitlin Richardson or Alex Hernandez. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming on this day of cool weather, nice for Miami, last day of the semester and the year, and what a year it has been, right? But let's not dwell on that. So happy to see all of the MDC campuses fully represented, and also all of the disciplines and laboratories. Thank you for what you have done this year and for what you continue to do for all of our students. I want to also acknowledge the attendance of our sister local universities, Florida International University and University of Miami. Thank you guys for taking the time to join us today. I appreciate it very much. Now, I want to introduce you to Dr. Alfredo Leon, who will be welcoming you to the symposium. Dr. Olanka Brown, who is the campus president at the Padron campus and also the president for Learning Resources, could not join us today. She does send her appreciation to all of you for your contributions to teaching and learning. So getting back to Dr. Alfredo Leon, he currently serves as the college interim dean of faculty for the Padron campus. He literally took on this position 3 weeks ago. He has a doctorate degree from University of Florida, a master's and a bachelor's degree in molecular biology from University of Puerto Rico. So if you have any questions about the virus and the vaccines, he'll be happy to respond after the symposium today. He taught science at various Miami-Dade public schools for many years, and then joined Miami-Dade College, where he has held several positions at various campuses, including lab manager, faculty chair, and now dean. Please welcome Dr. Alfredo Leon with a big virtual applause.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Eric, for that introduction. As Eric said, my name is Alfredo Leon, and I serve as the interim dean of faculty at the Padron campus. Again, 3 weeks at this, so still working on it. I'd like to take this opportunity to not only welcome you, but echo what Eric mentioned, and thank you for the work that you all do, and for sharing that this is an important time. It has been a very special year. It's been trying, but we've worked together. You've worked together with not only with your students, but with faculty, and you've gone the extra mile. And it is amazing the work that you've done in service of our students. I cannot thank you enough, and I know that the teams that support and benefit from the services that everyone does here are greatly appreciative of your work and the time that you put in. It's not easy, as you can hear in the background. We got Blue's Clues and someone screaming. And I know that you've had these situations and you've worked with our students. And again, thank you. I'd be remiss to say, much appreciation to Learning Resources and specifically the team that put together today's event. The agenda is wonderful. It's a snippet of what the work that everyone does with collaboration and looking at what we can do for our students to take it to the next step. Again, I won't take too much of your time because I know that the agenda is pretty hefty and we are all looking forward to our keynote speaker. So thank you, everybody. And with that, I have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Loretta Ovueraye. she serves, and I'm going to mess this up, but I'm going to try. She serves as our Vice Provost of Workforce and Pathways. I know I'm killing it. And Academic Pathways. Academic Pathways.
Close, but not yet.
You guys had the banner, and I was like, great, I have it right there, and I didn't write it down, and there it went. So a little bit about Dr. Loretta Ovueraye. She's worked at the college in various positions, from honors college, project director, chair of the sciences, dean of faculty, and now vice provost. And I can tell you that the work that she has done echoes her her dedication and her interest, not only for our students, but to use the college and use the tools that we have to balance and create equity. And that's truly what yes, Gordo, and that's what today we're going to focus on. And today we want to salir. So with that, I leave you and I present you with Dr. Loretta Ovueraye. Have a great day, everybody.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Leon, for that welcome. Truly appreciated. So the reason why Dr. Leon struggles with that title is that over the last few months, the title was changed. It used to be the Vice Provost for Academic Schools, and it's now the Vice Provost for Workforce Programs and Professional Learning, because this role covers not just the schools, but the opportunities that we provide to companies to attain additional instruction for their employees. So that being said, I'm going to ask Eric to be my timekeeper, and he will share with me, because once the screen is up, which I'm assuming you can all see, that there is, it's not possible for me to see the chat box. So Eric, can you verify that the screen is showing?
Yes, the screen is available, and I will keep the time for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so my goal is to try to make this as interactive as possible, considering the amount of time that we have, as well as the density of the topic. Please use the chat box, because there will be opportunities for you to weigh in. It's a 30-minute spiel, but I hope that it will make the mark and encourage you and to go further and read up on this very dense topic. So if you think about empathy and equity, right? Sometimes they don't necessarily go together, but you have to have some empathy in your heart to be able to go out of your way to provide equitable practices. So I'm going to start us off with a very short video. And let's hope this works. If you don't hear the sound, please speak up.
I like to push myself mentally. I like to listen in and learn new things. And I know that's what college is all about. You know, they teach me stuff high school won't. And I'm all about learning new things. I love education. So I have to admit I was nervous too, like any incoming freshman. But you know, it's just you just gotta see it as just another day at school. So like you just adapt to it. I mean, I did. It's easy. It's just a lot of homework. I don't like homework. I mean, school's alright, I like it, but it's just, it's not for everybody. And, I guess I'm just one of those people that it's not. Or maybe sometime later on in life, I'll pick it back up again, but, just, it is what it is.
So, how did that make you feel? If you could put it in the chat box, some of the sentiments. Did you feel despair, powerless, empathy? What did you feel? And do you see any correlation between what you're doing right now as a tutor in the month of November? You saw the energy of the young man at the beginning of the semester. He was gung-ho, ready to rock and roll, ready to take on the world. How do you feel the same way? Have you seen students feel this way? Please put your feedback in the chat. Eric, do we have any? Because I can't hear or see anything.
We have
Yes,
defeated.
Feedback. You know, some people are feeling, you know, that the individual was deflated. He tried real hard at the very beginning, not so much now. Lots of empathy for this particular case.
So this is really why the word empathy comes in, because you could see that young man, he started off feeling that he could do anything, right? And if you think about your students, when they come to you, you might not even notice the change in the demeanor of the individual as they go through. Some people maintain that strength all through, while others build, right? So one of the ways that we can address this is just taking the time to look at how we provide support to our students with an equitable lens. There are many studies that tell us that students come in with the need for something, right? You saw our young man, he came in excited, he wanted to take over the world, he had a lot of passion. So it's not for the lack of interest, which sometimes is the language that we use. Oh, they're not really interested. Mommy told them to come, or daddy told them to come, so that's why they're here. But we can overcome the challenges that the student may get to by November. And if you think about how you work, most of those students start showing up in your offices around that time, right? And you're saying, why did you wait so long? But if we use an equitable lens, we can get something going. So diversity, equity, and inclusion lens is really one of the best ways that we can use to support students right from the beginning, so that they don't get to that point where they are challenged, or they feel sad, or they feel, you know, unable. Because that young man, if you listened, you would have heard him quitting. He wasn't planning to come back the next semester. So with this type of lens, we can address a very complex topic like this, and we are able to provide some support for the student. Of course, it's not a simple answer. It's not a linear pathway. There is no magic, right? It just takes a lot of work on all of our parts. So let's get some foundational understanding of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is. So diversity, so as you read that, I just want you to think about it this way. Diversity is about being asked to go to a party. Inclusion is about being asked to dance, while equity is ensuring that everyone who had access to attend that party, right, could dance. So think about that for a second. When we think about equity, we tend to think about it as, you know, equal, right? But the reality is that equity is not. There are people who have certain viewpoints that, well, if you think about it, it's very suspicious. I think that people are talking about equity because, you know, of X, right? That you're trying to divide the races. You're trying to say it's because of this particular race or this particular thing. But the reality is we all come with baggage from where we are and where we start from, right? And there are biases and there are things that hold us back. We try to believe that for those especially who are suspicious that it's about race, they feel that equity is associated with social justice movements, that, you know, we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're providing an equal opportunity for everybody. But or that we are going with what's happening in the news, you know? And this is the challenge is that as educators, we have a responsibility to not just talk about equity, but to walk it. There are other people who believe that there are no biases. So you've heard some people who will say, well, I have no bias. I love everybody. I support everybody in what they do, right? But the reality is not everyone has an equal chance to survive. So if you think, for example, many years ago when I was in the Honors College, we had a student who left Miami and was accepted at a high Ivy League school. So this is a really smart student, but she came from a regular family in Miami. She's never been to a high-class restaurant where they have all the cutlery laid out, and she was very embarrassed and very uncomfortable. So yes, they loved her, they brought her in, they wanted to provide a good environment for her to succeed. But the reality is that there are inequities in our system. So that student, even though she was great, some of those inequities challenged her to do well in that environment. While others believe that through conversation that we're including people. So when you include people in the conversation, that you're providing equity. And so these are these viewpoints, and there are many, many more, but these are the ones I wanted you to have up front and center, that these don't necessarily help the equity conversation, and they can derail things. So equity is not diversity, and it's not equality. So let's look at this. These various animals, right, need to cross or go up that tree. And so the teacher says, I'm treating all of you fairly. Now, everybody, the exam at the end of the semester is to go up that tree. So what are some of the questions that you think this teacher should have asked, right? Or what is the purpose of climbing the tree? Is it to get the leaves at the top? Is that the ultimate outcome for this exam? So in that case, does the elephant really need to climb the tree? He could just get his trunk and get the leaves down, right? But what about the fish? What purpose does getting the leaf down, right, serve? So something for you to think about. And yes, the fish does look really worried. I'm worried too. So our goal really is to try to walk towards this direction, right? You see this gentleman. I'm sure some of you have seen these images in different stories or in different spaces. But the key here is this gentleman, right? This young man who everybody wanted to watch the game. And if we treated them all equally, he can't see the game. But if you gave him a higher stool with enough resources, he would be able to see the game, and all of them, because he didn't need that extra advantage of a stool. This is what we're trying to speak to, and this is what we're trying to ensure happens in our classes. Are there benefits? Of course, there's benefits for equitable practices in academia. The largest, of course, is parity in student educational outcomes. A lot of times people don't think about the fact that if you live in an environment where more people are treated at least equitable, you would be able to get better services overall. At the school level, we could close the student achievement gaps because some groups are doing better than others. We could increase overall graduation rates. I don't know if many of you are aware that the average or mean graduation rate for many universities is about 35%. That's a challenge, 35%. Think about it. Your science students, if you were given 35% in a class, what would you tell the teacher? You'd freak out. Exactly. So this is a serious issue that we should spend some time really thinking about. It will also repair institutional barriers. There are many students who are academically gifted, but are unable to pursue academics. They're not able to get into institutions, right? Just because family's poor, they can't afford to go into the college system. And of course, creates a culture of inquiry, because as we're curious and we learn, we do better. In the workforce, there are benefits as well. In fact, workplaces with more diversity have 1.7 times more likely to have innovation innovation in their leaders and innovations in the field. I don't know if any of you know, but even the development of the virus was brought to the Miami area. So UM participated in the development of the virus, right? The other things that happens is that equity helps to equip people to be successful. It makes as many people successful as others. If you think about the US as we're a very diverse country because many people are invited to the party. But imagine if all that brain power is here and we're not all given an opportunity to be successful. It won't be that good. So diversity has its benefits, right? And there are greater opportunity for personal and professional growth. So these are two definitions that I like for equity, where achieving equity or justifications, if you will. Achieving equity in higher education requires clarity of purpose and sustained purposeful action. As I said before, these are tough topics. There's no way for us to just jump into saying we're doing things equitable without really sitting down, examining why these equities exist and understanding what's happening at the institutions and why these inequities are sustained year after year. We really need to examine, right? Examine institutionally and examine personally. As I said, this is a very dense topic. We're not going to be able to go into as far as we could, but let's continue to dive in a little bit more. So here's another example of equity. Let's say you have 50% of the students who come into an institution are white, 50% Black or African American. Equity is having this entering population representative of the graduating student population, right? Irrespective if the total number of students are graduating students or degrees. And this was provided by a research institution, the USC Center for Urban Education. However, that's not always the case. I just wanted to give you a snapshot of our MDC picture for just a small group. We typically have 701 Black students come into Miami-Dade. So this is in the access box. Now, if you look at the educational achievement box, we have 45% of those graduate. Only 31% have earned a bachelor's degree. That's a challenge. You have this many people come in and that many leave. What happens in between is the question that we need to ask. And how can we ensure that we are supporting these students while they are with us, right? There's also a decline in enrollment compared to last year for this particular population. And if you think about all the studies, they tell you that one of the larger groups that have had challenges is, of course, the African American group. But equity can lead to social justice, which is why I shared with you earlier the challenges with looking at it as a racial-only situation, because there are other groups that are challenged as well. So this, of course, situation can make you sad and you can also say, well, the students didn't put in what they needed to do. They're not doing well because, they came in short. There are challenges in the way they look, and that's what's considered a deficit-minded approach. That we're looking at individuals coming into our institution as people who have shortcomings. That that it's because of a family dysfunction or some type of family deficit. And deficit thinking blames the student for those unequal outcomes. The truth is, we can't help that, right? Students are responsible for inequities in student outcomes, but to some extent, maybe motivation. However, some of the things that we can't help as a student is our cultural stereotypes, which makes a difference or impacts the outcomes while they're experiencing education, right? if you think about, so I'm going to read this in a minute, but if you think about how a student could be in a space and they feel unhappy or stereotypes are impacting their success, it's very difficult for them to do well. In reality, a very large number of students, particularly underserved minority students, do not have access to social networks that can help them develop the knowledge, practice, attitudes, and aspirations associated with the ideal college student. This lack gives challenges for them to earn college credits. Not to seek help, because if you are already in a deficit mindset and you feel that, okay, if I speak up, I'm going to be looked at as a bad person or a weak person, or I'm confirming a stereotype, so they end up running into trouble, not wanting to speak to instructors. These students are not an exception, right? In many colleges, this is actually the case, particularly in two-year colleges, right? Especially colleges with open admissions access, right? So they are the typical student. So now, if you think about who you are, how can we define equity from an academic support lens? How can we help a student who is now, because this is the characteristics of the students that you're dealing with. What are your thoughts? How can we define equity within that lens? Just a couple comments and I'll move on. Any posts in the chat box?
I think we're just waiting on busy fingers.
Oh, people are thinking?
Yeah. Someone posted that what you were talking about, the deficit-minded approach could also be called a fundamental attribution bias.
There you go. Okay, so while you're working on that, I'm going to give you some additional questions to think about.
We have a couple coming in right now.
Okay.
We have some tutors saying helping students reach equality of opportunity versus equal opportunity, pay special attention to individual needs such as background and psychological barriers. Equity is providing what a student needs to be successful, another stating accessibility. I think we need to consider the way we communicate, the way we market tutoring and academic success. There's more. They are coming in now.
And those are important things. So even as we think about that, because how we advertise has an impact, right? Are you putting a diversity of faces in your advertisement? Are you showing that irrespective of who you are, you can come in and get support, right? Is the space welcoming? And we'll go into that in a few.
I really like this last one I did want to share. Ismail stated, I would say equity from an academic support lens would mean not assuming the college experience is uniform. Many first-gen students don't know the process and need more support. I think that's a really great point.
That is an excellent point. Because I even think about when I first got to college, my parents just said, oh, your uncle said this is a good school. Your family friend went there, so go there. Your cousin is there. And so I got there and she was reading law and I was going to study microbiology. Our languages are completely different. I didn't know what she was talking about and she had no idea what I was talking about. So even just registering for a class was a challenge because we were both speaking different things, right? She didn't know I had to take a lab. I knew somebody said, oh, you needed a lab, right? So just thinking about where our students are coming from, they're coming from different places. And we as the support system need to be open to that and providing definition and being able to sort of be careful with our values, our beliefs, and our interpretations and our assumptions. Okay, so these are some other things for you to ponder as we talk about this topic. We'll dibble-dabble into these as we go, but I think that these are our 4 guiding pillars here. What are specific examples of how equity is a value to our institution, and how does our understanding of equity translate into values, beliefs, and actions? These are 2 definitions that I absolutely love. Equity is the creation of opportunities for historically underserved populations to have equal access to and participate in educational programs that are capable of closing the achievement gaps in student success and completion. And this is provided by the Association for American Colleges and Universities. The Achieving the Dream Initiative, the group, who define equity as grounded in the principles of fairness. Equity refers to ensuring that each student receives what they need to be successful through the intentional design of the college experience, right? So you see, it's talking about the student experience. So we as the providers or supporters or creators, contributors to the student experience need to keep equity in the center of what we do. As academic support teams, we are responsible for setting the climate, ensuring that the content is happening, and providing supportive discourse. In other words, we strive to seek balance, right? As you work with your students, you want to ensure that the climate is appropriate. So for example, in our current environment with COVID, we need to be sensitive that a lot of the students are learning online. We have to be sensitive that not everybody has the bandwidth. If you went back way to January, not many students had access to internet. They were all coming to the libraries to use the internet, right? And then all of a sudden, we're now asking them to pay for these additional sources that we didn't. So now you're providing tutoring in an online environment. You're learning, they're learning, we're all adjusting. So as tutors, in your role as a support team, you want to be sensitive to providing the appropriate balance in that discourse with the tutors. The other thing is that your presence, ensuring that there is a mental dialogue that is appropriate, being aware of your social presence, how all these three things interact is the spot where equitable practices occur. So one of the things that people forget is that there is a challenge with identity, where a lot of people have stereotype challenges. They're coming to school for the first time. They've never been in this environment. They're a little unsure of what to do. And then there's something called imposter syndrome. And I'm going to read this quick excerpt from this book called Whistling Vivaldi, right? And in it, it says, this is referring to the author. He was a Black student and he arrived into class. And in his class, he was the only Black student. It said, I felt it in classes, in conversations, while sitting around watching football games. It could cause a paralysis of personality, especially around the faculty. Even in informal situations like program picnics, I never asked a question in class. I felt like Ted in his African American political science class, except that the pressure wasn't confined to just one class. I remember once noticing my hands in the middle of a seminar. What did their darkness mean? Nothing. Everything? It is important to stress that this didn't come from this hostility around me, right? I tried hard to interpret things in a non-threatening way, but there was a constant task in those early days of figuring things out. Integration was hard work. So students may not be telling you that they're going through these things emotionally, because this is a successful young man. He was accepted to a really good school in Ohio. So people are going through these identity threats, this imposter syndrome that maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Everybody in my family is, doing something else, and I'm here trying to be the first person going to school. So the struggle is not just mental. There's the social as well, and the cognitive, right? There are some arguments that equity is in this box between the social and the economic, because if you think about, you're trying to provide resources to someone And it may require you to spend a little bit more to provide others who don't have resources so that it's sustainable. So we need to always be aware that the economic, which is the money part, right, that it doesn't take away from our need to provide equity, that we should ensure that whatever we're doing, again, seeking for balance and doing things well. As usual, you got to be self-aware, right? Can't do anything until you understand yourself and how you impact others. So let's do a quick exercise. I'm going to move on this one real quickly. So put that in the chat box, right? If you were a student, and how do you think that the student feels when they first reach out to you and when they leave your presence? Are you thinking about that as you exchange with a student? Are you thinking about, do you leave a mark, right? Be aware, because that's part of the awareness situation. This is just a food for thought that Nelson Mandela stated, that no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite, right? So as you think about your students when they exchange with you, are you putting in mind that you are a source of help for them when they come to you, right? Are you being that source of help? We can't help but be aware that there is some assumptions that we make as to an individual and who they are. So I'm just going to touch on biases just real quickly. So real quickly in the chat box, you can put that in, or you can just have it in your mind. Now, when I do this in person, I like to have people write it out. So how would you introduce yourself? Are you an American, woman, Latino, Hispanic, college graduate? What are the keywords when you think about yourself? All right.
Some have started to come in. Hispanic, some are starting to come in. They were responding also to your previous question. So some define themselves as Hispanic women, Cuban American, woman survivor, Black women, Hispanic, Cuban American, African American woman, boomer, anxious Latino, Hispanic Cuban.
Good. So what doesn't apply to you when you think about the stereotype of that definition? The reality is sometimes we are not that stereotype, right? Whatever stereotype goes with that title, right? Japanese jury. So we define stereotypes very widely, and they're oversimplified images of a group. And stereotypes could lead to a false perception of an individual. Stereotypes, or our false perceptions which lead to those stereotypes, could cause us to have some type of bias. So you have to really be careful how you think about yourself as an individual, how you classify yourself, because those things, you could get stuck in this stereotype box. The difference between bias and stereotype is that a bias is a personal preference, right? Like or dislike. Our ability to be impartial or unprejudiced. So we really have to be careful as to how we are even showcasing our thoughts, right? And become, as I saw a comment there, says we become more tolerant. So if you look at this image, what do you see? Right? Is it a man looking at you, a man looking sideways? One person. Any comments? No.
It's very tricky. Right? It's looking at me. It's both looking at me and away. Different views.
Right.
Initially.
So this is exactly. So we have to be careful with our perceptions and develop a stereotype based on it, because sometimes it's like this visual trick. You see it one way, but it's another way, or it's even all of those ways, right? So we'd like to believe we're open-minded, fair, and without bias, but research tells us that we do have a lot of preconceptions about things, and we have to be mindful of that. So there are many things at play: our memory, our interactions with people, our mindset, perception. So what's the point of this discussion? That things happen, right? We need to be careful of our definition. So I'm going to speed up a little bit because I've gotten my 3-minute reminder. We have to be careful because bias comes in the conscious way or in the unconscious way. The conscious is very deep rooted. You might have it based on your political agenda, family understanding, who knows, right? But then it becomes unconscious when you don't even know that you're doing it, and it's inflexible, and you're classifying a group in a certain way, right? There's more in the bias conversation where you have in-group favoritism, you have confirmation bias, and there's so much more in that topic. But they have negative impacts in the workplace. It affects how you employ people, interact with people, perceptions of a race, and start things. Even people themselves have challenges with that because it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy, where someone who has been told that all women are bad at math, and suddenly they find themselves bad at math. And there are studies to confirm that these things have impact on how an individual survives. So we have to be careful of our body language, even just overly blinking your eyes when someone's speaking, because they could interpret it as something different. Even interrupting a person when they speak. Women sometimes feel that when a man interrupts them when they speak, that they're not respectful of them or their opinion, which can be a challenge, or taking credit for another person's work, right? Not introducing someone else, speaking over someone, it can be a challenge, or not saying hello. So now in a non-pandemic environment, there is the issue of staying far away from someone, then the other person says, you know what, do I smell, or what is that, right? Then the aspect of othering, right? My people and their people, the othering. There is a whole study on what othering means and how it impacts how we interact with others. We really have to be careful. So with tutoring and equity conscious tutoring, you need to facilitate learning, make connections, connect with the student, simple things as know your name, right? Ensure your climate is okay for the student to learn. We need to be careful with the language we use. We stop believing that the norm for any dominant culture is the right one and the only one. Empathy. There are many countries around this world that more people look the same than do not. So maybe they could, say this is the way we do things. But here we are a mixed majority in the US. So we need to be open and to ensure equity occurs for everyone to get some learning. We also need to look at the data, periodically look at the different types of people that are coming to our tutoring services and ensuring that we're providing services to others. But we need to be mindful that we're not unconsciously stereotyping people and saying, oh, all the blah, blah, blah groups don't ever come for tutoring, right? We have to be careful. We also need to avoid using words like, oh, women are horrible at math, right? Or all the minorities have low success rates. We need to be very careful how we use those things and avoid unsubstantiated accusations of minoritized students. So as we wrap up, I will leave you with these things to continue to ponder on, because as I said, this was just a dabble to get your feet in this conversation. And think about how can you demonstrate these equity-minded practices. There are 6 success factors in tutoring sessions that you should consider. And these include, let me see if I have it. No, I don't have it showing here. I'm almost out of time. But you want your environment to be nurturing, because your end goal is that this is our typical reality. The person who's already tall is given additional things to be better. This one is just okay because he's doing what he needs to do or the environment is okay. But somebody who has already a challenge is not given the tools to do better. While in an equality situation, we give everybody the same tool to do well. But in equity, we provide additional resources for those who even started off with a deficit, right? And so that they could do better, with the hope that we get into a point of liberation. And everyone has ability to be successful and we all do well. Imagine a world where all of us are doing well. I'm sure that will end crime because everyone has access to food and resources, right? So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I have Eric assisting, and I think I can close out the PowerPoint unless someone wants to see something specific.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ovueraye, for this keynote. I think it's made all of us ponder on things that are realities, but we don't stop on a day-to-day interactions, right, to consider or even check ourselves. I just wanted to add that it's also okay when we are interacting and we're seeing our peers you know, talking or mentioning things that could be said better. It's okay after that interaction to pull that person on the side and say, hey, maybe you can rephrase that the next time. Maybe you can say it in a different way. We have to lose that fear of checking each other and helping each other, because at the end of the day, what matters is the success of our students. So don't be afraid to you know, call on someone and just respectfully provide them with an alternative way of perhaps addressing an individual or you know, a topic in particular. So guys, now if you have any questions for Dr. Ovueraye, please write them in the chat and I will happily read them for her. Everyone, it's congratulating you and expressing their thanks for a very thoughtful and informative session. It was very eye-opening and well done as a presentation, very helpful. Many things are important.
Many things to think about, because the truth is that we can't get everything in this one time, but we really have to spend time to look at our craft to do better, our body language, our use of words, as you said, right? And pull each other up, right? So we can do this.
Wonderful. Everyone is just expressing their deep gratitude for your presentation and you know, how eye-opening it's been. Congratulations, as a wonderful keynote. All right, if you guys have no questions, I think we should bid Dr. Ovueraye, you know, thank you for this keynote with a great applause. You can unmute yourselves if you want to applaud that way, or you can simply just express it with emoticons on the chat. This is not a question, but a comment that says some of the themes that Dr. Ovueraye spoke about were addressed in The Privileged Poor, a book that some of us at North Campus had to read.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure to have that particular book in all of the libraries at the college, so that if you guys want to give it a try, you can do so as well. Somebody else mentioned before another book by Toni Morrison, but I think to have lost that particular.
Put a list of books on the chat, the one from the handout, or you'll send that to them later?
Correct, Alex.
We can send that to them later. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Ovueraye very thoughtfully provided a handout for all of us. We're gonna share that with all of you via email later. Alex is gonna send an email to everyone who's participating today with that information.
We'll also put it on the LibGuide.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes, and know that all resources are going to be there, all recordings are going to be there. So thank you so much, Dr. Ovueraye, again for this keynote. We appreciate very much the work that you have done for all of us, and everyone. I had a wonderful opportunity of working with Dr. Ovueraye over the last 3 to 4 years, and I got to tell you, I'm very thankful all the guidance that she provided to me, and you know, for just being a wonderful, wonderful dean for the Padron campus. I know she's going to do just as good of a job as a associate vice provost in her current role. So thank you so much, and all the best to you.
Truly a pleasure. Have a wonderful holiday, and we'll be seeing you more soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing
Thank
me
you.
to join you.
Thank you. Thank you.